Please stand for the posting of the colors of the Hampton Police Department. standing for lifting up your voice and singing. This time we'll have our invocation by Reverend Dr. Walker, pastor of the Living Water Baptist Church of England.
Let us still ourselves. Let us pray. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far along the way. God, first of all, thank you for those who were courageous enough to brave the cold by marching this morning, coming to this affair. We thank you for the Hammond Ministers Alliance and Association, and for all, and for the City of Hammond, and for the mayor and all those that have been instrumental in putting this program together on this morning. Allow us to remember the legacy, the life, and the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We thank you for this beautiful morning you blessed us with, cold on the outside, warm spirits on the inside. Now, God, we pray that your Holy Spirit will guide us in all that we do and all that we say. We want this coming together to be a memorial, a memorous occasion. We pray, God, that you will touch the hearts of those who will be speaking and those that will be singing. Whatever we do, oh God, will it be done to your glory. This is our prayer now in Jesus' name. And all the people of God said, amen.
This time we'll have acknowledgments by President of Minister Alliance of Hammond, Pastor Ole Sanders Jr., who is a pastor of the New Nazareth Baptist Church.
Good morning. Good morning. Isn't this a lovely morning? Glad to be alive. To the mayor, to the city of Hammond, and to the Minister Alliance of Hammond, and to you that make up this beautiful, beautiful congregation. We greet you from the Minister Alliance, and we thank you for being a part of this great day celebration, the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We appreciate you coming, and we hope that you remember this day from days to come. God bless you.
Amen.
At this time, our Honorable Mayor Thomas McDermott Jr. will come and give greetings.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for braving the weather, coming out for another great celebration of the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. First off, I want to thank the Hammond Ministerial Alliance for putting on a great show, working very hard. They do this every year for the city of Hammond, working with us. So let's give them a big round of applause. I'd also like to thank the staff at Planning and Development and the staff at the Hammond Park Department. You know, it's nice and warm here in the Civic Center, and it's all set up. That doesn't happen automatically. It happens from a lot of hard work. So I particularly want to thank Leon Ripe, who works very hard behind the scenes. Thank you very much, Leon. Councilman at Large, City of Hammond, Robert Markovich. Thank you very much, Councilman. Indiana State Senator Lonnie Randolph. Hammond School Board Trustee Anna Mamala. Hammond School Board Trustee Cindy Murphy. Hammond School Board Trustee Debbie White. School City Hammond Superintendent Dr. Watkins. Hammond School City Trustee George Janet. Hammond School City Trustee Marilyn Jones. Thank you very much to all the elected officials in attendance. Thank you for coming out. I also have a letter from United States Senator Joe Donnelly, if you don't mind, while I read it off. He could not be here today. He's in Washington, D.C. for the President's inauguration. So he asked me to read this off, so I hope you don't mind. Dear honored guests, fellow Hoosiers and friends, today our country celebrates the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was a tireless leader who spent his life's work seeking to advance basic freedoms and respect for all Americans. Dr. King taught us that in order to bring change, it can begin with just one voice. Throughout his passion for and commitment to ensuring an American dream for every citizen, Dr. King helped to inspire a movement that is written into our country's history. As a United States Senator for the state of Indiana, I am honored to serve all Hoosiers. Every day, I make decisions that I hope are for the betterment of my home state. And on days like today, it is my hope that I can continue to learn from Dr. King's legacy. It is truly remarkable how far we have come as a nation, and I look forward to how much more we can accomplish together. Thank you, United States Senator Joe Donnelly. It seems like every year, this crowd gets bigger and bigger, and we have one large group in attendance I wanted to thank for coming out here, because they're not from our city, they came out as guests. So let's give a big round and rousing welcome to Lou Wallace ROTC program. Thank you guys very much for coming out. I don't know what it is when you're doing the walk and it's 0 degrees, it's negative when you're walking, it's early in the morning, the sun's not even up yet, and we're walking real fast, obviously, and then you get into this building and it's warm, and you can smell the coffee, and you got the donuts, and you got everybody in here, and everybody's so happy. I don't know if we're all happy because it's nice and warm, or if we're all happy just because it's such a wonderful environment. But there's something about that walk and walking into this building and feeling the love and feeling the atmosphere. So I wanted to thank you all for making it a nice, warm atmosphere. Looking forward to today's show. I've been honored to be your mayor for the past 9 years. I think Dr. King, if he was able to look at what's happening in America today, he'd be very proud. And he realized that we have a long way to go, but I think it's very unique that on Martin Luther King's birthday, we're swearing in the president. We did it the first time 4 years ago, and I was there. And on Dr. King's birthday, we're swearing in the president, the first African-American president in our country's history for a second term, President Barack Obama. So congratulations. And to the kids. There's a lot of kids that are looking sort of grumpy right now, okay? Because it's a day off in school. But you know what? This is truly important. It's wonderful that your parents bring you out here. It's truly important that you are here and you can get home and fall asleep by 9 o'clock. It's totally okay. The mayor said it's okay. So thank you to the parents. Thank you to the kids. Thank you to Lou Wallace ROTC program, to the Ministerial Alliance, to the Park Department. Let's have a great show. Thank you all. Have a nice day.
I would be favored with a selection by this great aggregation of young people. Can we give them a great round of applause? Come on, let's encourage them one more time. They look wonderful this morning. This time we'll have greetings by Senator Lonnie Randolph.
Morning. I bring you greetings from the state of Indiana, Indiana General Assembly. My name is Lonnie Randolph. I am your state senator of the 2nd District, which is your district. The Minister Alliance, your McDermott, members here, all the residents and citizens. When I think of this day, I feel joy. I feel pride. I feel inspiration. When I think of Dr. King, I think of not the fact that he had a dream, but I think of his drum making speech. He talked about all the awards that he said I received, all the accolades. I don't want to be remembered for that. Right. I don't want you to talk about what a great guy I am, what a fine job, husband, father. I want you to think of me as a drum major for justice, that I tried to do good for the people, and I tried to serve the people. Each and every one of us can be a drum major. Each and every one has been a drum major in our small way. Think about it. When you go to work every day, you provide for your family, you encourage your kids, you clothe them, you feed them, you house them, you encourage them. That's your small way of being a drum major. When you do that, and you look at it collectively, you look around and say, look, we've done some wonders. Matter of fact, the little efforts you've made throughout the years have resulted in what? A double whammy. We got a double whammy today. What's that double whammy? We've got a president of the United States who has to be national. And the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, we've got what? We've got a double whammy. So you've got something to be proud of, you got something to be happy about. So when you leave here today, you leave here with your head up high, knowing that, hey, this is only the beginning. It's only a start. Morning, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Senator Randolph. This time we have greetings by Dr. Walter J. Watkins, who is the superintendent of the Hannah School City.
Morning. And it's always a pleasure for me to be here this morning and bring greetings on behalf of the School City of Hannah. In terms of acknowledgments, I think we've done this for a lot of years, but this is the first time I can ever remember having all 5 of my school board trustees here every March. So I'd like to thank them for taking time from their day today. The other group I want to acknowledge is we have a lot of administrators and a lot of staff members in this audience today who really don't live in Hannah, but who come to support this event on behalf of the School City of Hannah. I'd like for those individuals to stand because they did not have to be here this morning. Many of them traveled long distances to be here. So I'd like to acknowledge those people who work for the School City of Hannah who are here this morning. Please stand. Thank you very much. The theme of today's program is Perfecting the Dream. And I know that nothing would make the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. happier than to know that on the day that honored his life, we also have the public inauguration of the first African American president of the United States of America. What a perfect moment that really epitomizes the work as you watch those moments with those young people, talk to them about possibilities and opportunities and how nothing will promote them higher in life than the goal of getting a good education. That is really the foundational work of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. It resulted in one of the finest moments in African American history. So I'm proud to be here today. I couldn't be happier that these two events coincide on the same day. Please celebrate, talk to the young people, reinforce the importance of a good education, because Dr. Martin Luther King worked hard and struggled to see that all people, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their background, their race, creed, and color, could aspire to greatness. And we'll see that later on this morning. Take some time to acknowledge that word, and I appreciate being here this morning. Thank you, and have a good holiday.
Thank you, Dr. Watkins. At this time, I'm going to present our keynote speaker, and then the choir is going to come and give us another selection. We are so excited today to have Mr. Roland Parrish with us. Mr. Roland Parrish is a native of Hammond, Indiana, graduate of Hammond High School and Purdue Calumet. Mr. Roland Parrish has been quoted saying, "Before noon, I have swept French fries off the floor, wiped tables and carried some drinks and taken a few food orders. Then have gone to the bank to go over some information for loans. The husband to Jewel and the father of two, Roland and Jade, Mr. Parrish believes in giving back to the community in which he lived. I will never forget my roots here in Hammond and the great times I've had here participating in sports and in the classroom. He is president and CEO of Parrish McDonald's Restaurants for the past 23 years. Mr. Parrish is dedicated to ensuring the success of McDonald's African American franchisees and communities and their restaurants that they serve. Hard work and determination truly leads to success and provides that you can achieve your dreams and your desires. After being rejected the first time he applied to become a franchise operator, he remained steadfast and saved his money, working 50 hours at his then career of choice with Exxon Corp. He was more than happy when he got in at McDonald's franchise. Getting involved right away, Mr. Roland Parrish has not stopped. He is considered a philanthropist, a local celebrity, and a hero. Ladies and gentlemen, after the choir, Mr. Roland Parrish.
See a couple of us out there. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of East Hammond, Mount Zion Baptist Church. Proud of you. And actually, I accepted this before the election, knowing that our president might be reelected again. But I still said, if I had a choice, I like to be in Hammond. I was here in 2008. And your humble servant, I have met the president, I have taken a picture with the president. In fact, I led a group of McDonald's franchisees who got to sit and talk with his chief of staff and present some of our concerns. But if there's any place I'd rather be today, it's Hammond. And thank goodness it was 70 degrees when I left yesterday in Dallas. Thank goodness for Under Armour. Some local folks, we used to call them long johns back then, now we got Under Armour. My wife and I walked to the airport, we had a big poster that said, "You must be going to Chicago." I said, yeah. We'd like to thank the Ministerial Alliance, the Hammond Ministerial Alliance, and probably members of the Ministerial Alliance to stand. We do know that in the moving the political and economic and social agenda in the Black community, that the Black minister and the Black church has been part of that, has been a strength with that. So we thank you so much. And also to our mayor, Mayor Thomas McDermott Jr. I believe when I left here, his father was the mayor, maybe after I left here, because I left here quite a few years ago, about 30 plus years ago, 40 plus years ago. And yeah, 40 plus years ago. And I said sometimes I may be in a time warp. I may bring up something that's no longer around. But to the mayor, we thank you. And we hope that City Hall, it's great to see the community and City Hall work together. So Mayor, we thank you and we hope you continue this. If we have any first ladies or first gentlemen, we'd like for them to stand. Any first ladies of the pastors? And I do want first ladies, Mrs. A.R. Burns, please stand. Always my first lady. And I'm going to borrow a line from Smokey Robinson. I'm going to ask for my girl to stand up. To the community and everyone here. But so much to the youth, And we just finished the holiday season. I did not come empty-handed. I did not come empty-handed like the three kings. I was invited back to Mount Zion in March of 2011, and I attended the morning service, and I was speaking at 3 o'clock. And in between, I got a moment to pick with my uncle. He said that I was going to meet at the McDonald's restaurant on 65th and Columbia and give out some McDonald's scholarships. Now, I pay a lot of money every month to McDonald's to have those arches and use the McDonald's system. But to me, after I give them my cut, or their cut, it's mine. So those who got McDonald's scholarships, we did give those away, thanks to the Boys and Girls Club. I know Joan Parrish was involved and others, maybe list some names out. But those are parish scholarships. So today, and this is for the seniors, and if we have any students in college. I do agree, we have 10,000 scholarships. We want to give 2 2,500s to boys, 2 2,500 to girls. So the 2 for the boys are going to make the Maurice Parrish Scholarship. And the 2 for the girls, we're going to call it the Joan Folks Parrish Home Scholarship. Now, you guys can work out the details, but I figured it probably would be an essay on Dr. King and what I'm going to talk about today. But additionally, those who got up early this morning, some of the things I talk about might be like a little extra credit quiz. So seniors and any college students, how many seniors do we have? High school seniors or college students? Raise your hand. You might want to take some and we do want to meet afterwards. We'll include Lou Wallace. We're going to include Wallace. I'm going to tell you why. Some of you know I've had a couple services this past year, and we're trying to get this 21-gun salute last March, and we weren't able to get the paperwork from the Navy. But Brother Dagger, and I may pronounce it wrong, stand up. I'm going to say the captain for Lou Wallace came to Bill and he said, "What's going on?" So we had a 21-gun salute. And many of the things I do, I kind of forget about, but when I saw him walking in, I said, look, if there's something I can do, let's let me know. And so I know I assisted in sending a group to Washington, D.C. I don't know how many, I don't know how much, but I know he called, we did it, we got it done, and we sent a group to Washington, D.C. So thank you, but we had that 21-gun salute. They'll work out the details on the scholarship. I don't want to get involved in the details, but they'll work it out. We'll come back sometime in May or June and present it. These 2 to 5. It's $10,000 in scholarships. When we think about Dr. King, we think about this day that our 44th president, Barack Hussein Obama, is re-elected. Dr. King also had spent time in the White House. And when I speak today, some of the things I talk about, I'm going to tell you the books that they came from so you don't think I'm just talking rhetoric. And it's a book called Judgment Days, and it speaks about how Dr. King, along with Lyndon Baines Johnson, these two very different people, one black, one white, one from the West, Texas is considered usually the West, one from the South. Lyndon Baines Johnson was considered the most powerful Senate leader maybe in history. He was a political insider in Washington. He could get things done. We think of Dr. King as a minister, but also Dr. King was a man in the streets because the marches were in the streets. And every time, I remember he was considered somewhat of a gambler because every time he was in the streets, there was a possibility that he might get killed. We knew that he was stabbed one time, right? And they said if he had just sneezed, he would have made it. So these two began to work together in his book of Judgment Days, and some people call it the Second Emancipation Proclamation. The first one was in 1863. The second one in 1963. So the voters' rights, first the Civil Rights in 64, the Civil Rights Act. In 65, the Voting Rights Act. And then there was housing and education that followed. So Dr. King was trumpeting around the White House back in the 60s. Now this day, Dr. King Day, Indiana has a lot to do with Dr. King Day. It was first proposed by John Conyers of Michigan in 1971, a congressman, but it didn't get anywhere. But in 1980, a young man who was born in East Chicago, Indiana, Stephen Judkins Morris, affectionately known as the entertainer, Stevie Wonder, met in Washington with the Congressional Black Caucus, and they presented to make Dr. King a federal holiday. And began to gain traction. To let you know where that came from. Some of us remember there's a singer called Gil Scott-Heron. Not Jill Scott, but Gil Scott-Heron. Because back in the 60s and the 70s, a lot of the writers, they did write about love, but they also talked about political and social movement. Marvin Gaye, Curtis Mayfield, Gil Scott-Heron. And Stevie Wonder went on a tour, like a 9-month tour to promote Dr. King Day. And Gil Scott-Heron wrote memoirs about that. And he was born in East Chicago. And there's some Morrises that lived in Hammond that was his first cousin before he went to Detroit. So Stevie Wonder, a man right here from Indiana. But that's not all that Indiana did. In the history books I read, Katie Hall was the first African-American congressional representative from Indiana. And I believe along with John Conyers, she proposed a bill in 1983. That bill was voted on and passed, and enough people passed that it couldn't be rescinded by the president, Ronald Reagan at that time. And I believe it was first celebrated in 1986. It took some states a little while to make this a national holiday. Arizona and South Carolina were the last 2 states to ratify it. And it was mentioned, I'm the chairman and CEO of an organization called the National Black McDonald's Owners Association. We have 1,400 restaurants and 3 billion in sales. We give over $1 million in scholarships a year. But it started in 1968 out of the Civil Rights Movement, because we want to make sure that African Americans can enjoy the McDonald's system, can enjoy the McDonald's system. And we still take stands. We took a stand 2 years ago. Do some of you guys remember the law that was passed in Arizona? We felt that it was illegal search and seizure where our Hispanic brothers and sisters could be stopped and pulled over. So we were going to have a convention, a 2012 convention in Arizona. And it cost us a little money, but we decided we would move and have our convention elsewhere. So we're still a stand-up organization. We're still a stand-up organization. One thing I want to mention to you, because I said I don't come empty-handed, is sometimes we go to McDonald's, get off that dollar menu, and buy some premium items, help with the scholarship money that we can do with some of the folks. Many times I stand up and say, I'm not a preacher. I'm not a preacher. But if I were to give a text today, I think I'd use 2 of Dr. King's speeches. The first one is his most famous speech, I Have a Dream.
Yeah.
I believe it was August 28th, 1963. And of all places, Washington, D.C. At the foot of the Lincoln Memorial. And when he talks about I Have a Dream, and he does talk about the foothills of Georgia and Lookout Mountain, but he has a phrase in there that says, he hopes that one day his 4 little children will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. By the content of their character. So let's put content of character, my seniors. I know you're paying attention, right? My seniors, right here. And Congressman Lonnie Randolph, we're on the same wavelength. One of my favorites is the drum major instinct. That one was in February of 1968, about 68 weeks before he was killed. And if you've ever had the chance to see an HBCU football game, and had the opportunity to live in Jackson, Mississippi, in 79 and 80, I got to see Jackson State, other black schools. But anytime the Grambling marching band comes out, they have the drum majors. They kick real high when they come out. Dr. King, and this is from Mark 10, I'm not taking the text, brother. James and John, who were the sons of Zebedee, talked to Jesus about one wanted to be on the right hand and one wanted to be on the left hand of the Father. And he begins to talk about what I would call evil with this drum major instinct, this desire to be recognized, this desire to be important, this desire to be out front, this desire to have attention, this desire to have distinction, this desire to lead the parade, this desire to lead the parade. He goes on and he talks about the fact that some of the drum major instinct is the reason for segregation in the country, because some folks felt that because their skin was white, they were better than folks whose skin were not white. But he talked about the fact, as Brother Lonnie said, Brother Lonnie Randolph, that be a drum major for justice. So my text today would be, or my subject matter would be, young folks, build your character. Build the content of your character, because you just might have to lead the parade. You just might have to lead the parade. I've got 3 real short civil rights stories to tell you about. About 2 years ago, the Southern Methodist University was celebrating the integration of, it was called Big 12, Southwest Conference Football. They were celebrating a gentleman called Jerry Levinas. It was about 45 years since he had integrated SMU football, but also Texas football. And they were having a town hall meeting about this size, maybe a little larger. And they had McDonald's call me up and asked me, could I attend? Could I be on the panel? So I'm thinking it's going to be real small. But when I got there, again, it's about 300-400 people, and they had lights and cameras, and they had one of the local news sports commentators as a MC. And so they told us, this is going to be a 2-hour panel discussion. And we're going to cut it down to a 30-minute show to show on TV. Which, if it's 30 minutes, that means it's going to be about 27 minutes because they got to sell commercials. So I'm thinking to myself, this is where the drum major instinct kicks in for me. Kind of nothing to do with the civil rights movement. I want to make the cut. I want to make the cut. This Norfolk v. Hammond, when they cut it from 90 minutes to 27 minutes, I want to be on TV. Not necessarily because I want to be on TV. I just want to say that I'm good as everybody else up here. They had his former coach, coach's son, 2 quarterbacks he played under, teammates, athletic director, and me. I was only invited because of McDonald's Corporation and McDonald's franchisees. I was the only one that had been a collegiate athlete, so that's why I was invited. So let's talk a little bit about Jerry Bias, this man who had to integrate Big 12 football. University of Texas, Arkansas University, Texas A&M, Southern Methodist, Texas Christian, University of Houston. This was big-time football in the 60s. Big-time football. He wore number 23. Found out 23 was because of the 23rd song. When he was recruited, and he had cousins that played for like Grambling, Southern. I think Mr. Price, you played for Southern, didn't you? Southern University. And they talked about some of the things he went through. When he got tackled, he would try to jump him real quick because if there was 2 or 3 guys got him, they were going to punch him when he was below everybody. One time he got tackled, and when it was a gang tackle, somebody put a fist through the helmet and broke his eyesight. He had to get surgery. They went on to talk about how one time, they couldn't get away with this now. The police knew that they had been a threat. Someone was going to have a high-powered rifle, and they said, we're going to shoot Jerry Bias. Let's talk about Jerry Bias now. We would say, our age, he was like a Gale Sayers. But to the new group, we say he's like a Devin Hester. He was fast, he was elusive, he could run touchdowns and punt returns. They call him a bad name, he might run a punt back. It's 83 yards for a touchdown. But when they showed him some of the films at this game that he was told, if you don't want to play, you don't have to play. Someone's supposed to have a high-powered rifle. You can see when he lined up wide right, we played football. My uncle played football. When he lined up wide right, you see the coaches moving out of the way. When he lined up wide left, the coaches on that side moved away. But anyway, he went through a lot of adversity. He even talked about the fact that Dr. King came to see him. When Dr. King came to see him, he said, make sure you keep your composure. Don't lose it. Don't get excited out there. Don't start cussing, ranting, and raving. So let's leave Jerry Bias right here. And I'm going to go into 2 other stories because I'm still thinking as I'm on stage, I've got to say something that's authentic, truthful, because I want to make the cut. I want to make the cut. So I thought about Dr. King. If you read the history of Dr. King, and this is from Juan Williams' book, Eyes on the Prize. Dr. King came to prominence when he was 26 years old in Montgomery. We all know the story. Rosa Parks, in December of 1955, was arrested because she didn't want to give up her seat on the bus. But when you read the book, that wasn't spontaneous. It just didn't just happen. There was some planning behind that. 3 other women had been arrested that year. A man had been shot because back then on those buses, you walked in and paid from the front, then you had to get off and go in the back door to get your seat. You couldn't just walk through. And so others had been arrested, but they weren't the right person. Within days of that arrest, a lady by the name of Joanne Robinson, who was a professor at Alabama State University, she printed 35,000 memos to tell the community, and 40,000 black folks rode buses. I understand Hammond is 80,000 people, so half half of Hammond, 40,000 black folks were buses and said, we're going to boycott on Monday to protest Rosa Parks' arrest. Now, 35,000 is not for today's copiers, right? I can barely remember mimeographs, but I know some people remember mimeographs. I think you had to turn that, and I think you had to change paper. It came out blue and would fade real quick on you. But these memos went out. They even said the preachers went out to the clubs on the weekend to tell everybody, went into the, what do we used to call Tony's Tap, the cave. To let everybody know we're going to boycott on Monday. And it was a women's political group that was behind this. And you know what? They said it was going to rain on Monday. But it was successful. It was successful, this one-day boycott, and it got the attention. But if we move a little farther, then the women, this women's political group, Joanne Robinson, they handed it to the ministers. They handed it to the ministers to say, we want you to take this and see can we go further. There was a minister named Rufus Lewis, a 29-year-old minister named Ralph David Abernathy. And they put forth the name of Dr. Martin Luther King. He was 26 years old. So he led this organization they created called the Montgomery Citizens Improvement Association. And I'm gonna tell you, young folks, some of the multiple syllable words I learned from being in the civil rights movement. I didn't know what boycott meant, integration, segregation. I learned all these words growing up in the civil rights movement. They boycotted 13 months and won. And the reason they had to make sure they had the right person, because if they did go to court, they went to local court, and you could guess they lost. But eventually made it to the Supreme Court. So they had to make sure they had the right person with the right character, so as it went up, we had a chance to win. Rosa Parks had been a volunteer for the NAACP. She had gone away to boarding school. She had attended a school that talked about political and the American dream. So she was the right person. She had the right character. Others had been arrested, but she had the right character. I don't think she set out today knowing that she would have to lead the parade. But she led the parade. The other big story is on Jackie Robinson. And very briefly on Jackie Robinson, women's still sports too long. Jackie Robinson came from an athletic family. His brother Mac Robinson got second to Jesse Owens in the 200 meters. He was a 4-letter winner at UCLA. He was an All-American football player. He averaged 11 yards per carry. He was all-conference in basketball. He almost made the Olympic team in track and field and the long jump. And his other sport was baseball. His other sport. He wasn't considered the best black player. We've heard of Josh Gibson. We've heard of Satchel Paige. There was a fast guy named Cool Papa Bell. Said he could turn the light off and get to bed before the room got dark. They were better players. Jackie Robinson, 11 years before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the bus, was court-martialed as an officer in the U.S. Army because he was told he couldn't ride on the officer's bus. So this man had courage, because young people, when we talk about character, we begin about honesty, integrity, and courage. So he was chosen because one of the things he was told is for the first year in pro baseball, you can't say anything. And baseball can be a brutal of a sport as football. He played second base. When you slide into second base, they tell him they used to slide head first, but when he came, he started sliding feet first, where the spikes didn't really get it. And the pitchers threw a little missile, a little white ball at 90 miles an hour. They call it a brushback pitch. And so they were throwing at him. But he couldn't say anything for one whole year. And so I thought about those things, and I was finally called upon at this 90-minute presentation. And they called me and said, well, Mr. Parrish, Roman Parrish, you're an athlete. What do you think about Jerry Levinas? And so I always try to get out of the dumb jock mode. I'm proud to be an athlete here. I'm proud to be an athlete, but I always like to think that I'm strong academically. So I had to paraphrase and said, well, I'm a student of history. I'm a student of the civil rights movement. And I said, many people think that Rosa Parks was just an incident, but I said it didn't happen. I said, and I stated the book, which is the Eisner Prize. Jackie Robinson's book was called The Experiment, The Great Experiment. And I also had to say, I have to have a good marketing slogan, or marketing logo. I gotta have a couple of catchy things you gotta put together to make it. And I said that Jackie Robinson, like Rosa Parks and Jerry Vines, was a total package. They were the total package. And I applauded SMU and the coaches for recruiting him. So young people, and I'm moving closer and closer here, I want you to build character, because you might have to be parade, and I want you to be the total package. Now I'm going to talk a little bit, a couple of points about character. John Wooten talks about self-discipline. Do you have good study habits? Do you turn off the TV and turn off the internet so you can study? Will you walk from East Hampton? I know we live everywhere now, we just live in East Hampton. But would you walk from East Hampton to the Hampton Public Library to study? That's self-discipline. And we go back to Lips. There used to be a comedian in our time called Flip Wilson. He said, loose lips sink ships. And they call that character assassination. President Obama, he's dealing with assault rifles. That's like death assassination. But what comes out of the lips can be character assassination. So when you speak to people, are you showing respect? Are you encouraging them? Are you too big that you can't apologize? So in the end, it's not going to be what you learn or what you taught. Not what you give, but what you give. So to the community, I want to say, I got some broken Swahili that I taught. Kama Minutaka, Nene Haraka, Bikini. Kama Minutaka, Mabewe, Obama, Pamoja Tutushen. So what I say to the community, what I just said in Swahili, is that it's an old African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Pamoja Tutushen, together, Mr. Bailey. Together, alliance. Together, community, we can win. Pamoja Tutushen. Together, we can win. And to the youth, there's a quote that very seldom, it's a Dr. King quote, very seldom that people use. He says, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving ahead. So build character. You might have to lead the parade. And in the end, I want you to be the total package. Thank you, Hannah.
Come on, keep clapping. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Roland. So encouraging and inspirational for our young people today, as well as our older people. We are just so grateful that your schedule permitted you to come to the city of Hammond on this day. Come on, one more time, Mr. Roland. This time our chairman is coming, Pastor Herman Pope, Pastor of New Hope Baptist Church in Hammond. Our president, Pastor Always Sanders Jr., and to present our awards.
Good morning. We are so blessed to be here, so blessed to be celebrating on such a great day. Each year, Ministerial Alliance does Legacy Awards. This year is no different. We thank God for this opportunity and this moment. We ask that the recipients would come, or those who are going to accept the Legacy Awards this morning. As the President and the past President comes, we ask that the Mayor would stand with us again as we give these awards. Paul Buck. This year, our Distinguished Service Award goes to Mr. Calvin Pennington. And other businesses. This person was selected, and unfortunately we have to award this posthumously because when we decided to give it to him, he was still here with us. But I'd ask that those who came to receive the award for Mr. Clarence Collins, he's receiving our Trailblazers Award. If the family member or whoever came, come to this time. With no family member, Pastor Collins, if you would, come and receive this award. This last award goes to a young lady who has more energy than most folk I know. If she gets involved in something, she will push and push and push for more. This year, our Distinguished Rosa Parks Award goes to Miss Lottie Smith. While she's coming, I want to thank chairperson on next year. Last year I said it in the meeting, this year I said it publicly. So hopefully, if you pray for me, I will gladly work with whoever comes.
Let's give all of our recipients one more round of applause. This time, the president is coming one more time to give our closing remarks. Thank you all so much for participating this year. We pray that 2014 will be an even greater year.
I'd just like to thank everyone for coming out this morning, participating. And you know, as I was walking, marching, whatever you call it, from the City Hall to Civic Center, I started out in front. I was in front, right behind the sign. But when I got here, I was almost the last one here. I think I need to lose a few calories. Next year, I hope that I'll be able to stay in front. But thank God for all that walked, all that came out. We appreciate you, and let us continue to remember this day. President is being inauguration today, and today is Martin Luther King Day celebration. So let us remember this day, and let us be joyful. You are considered dismissed.